driving and I had a morning thought that I wanted to get out, and I thought that I could just set this up on my stand, but I can't. So, I want to talk to you guys about releasing the fears while we're on our journey of spirituality and self discovery, right? Because I talk to you guys a lot about shadow work and shadow work being an ongoing process. Why is it an ongoing process? Because we're forever learning. And when we're learning, if we're forever learning, we're forever growing. Once you stop learning, you stop growing. And you're not just learning new aspects, but well, every new aspect of spirituality you learn is going to send you into this self reflection mode, because you're supposed to be thinking, okay, how does this pertain to me? How can I use this new information and implement it in my daily being? And that's how we're growing, right? But even asking those questions, that's a form of shadow work. See, people hear shadow work and they get real freaked out, and they start to think that, you shouldn't be living in the shadow, whatever. Okay, well, let's erase the negative connotation around shadow work, because yes, it's hard. It can be hard, especially in the beginning, but it's hard because we don't like to face certain truths about ourselves. We don't like to face ugly truths or behaviors that we're exhibiting. In the beginning is when our ego is at its largest almost, right? There'll come a point again where your ego will grow, and that's when you're in your spiritual journey and you feel like you've learned so much, yada, yada, yada. But that's a separate topic. But right now, in the beginning, people fear it. But that's because our ego is so large, we don't like when we can improve and change on certain things. We still want to believe that it's everybody else and it's not us, right? If they would have just done it this way, then I would have reacted this way. Okay, whatever. So, but the more you stay on your spiritual journey, the easier the process will become of doing the shadow work. But that's not even what this video is about. I'm just saying that. So it's like when you're learning these new concepts on your and you start asking yourself, okay, well, how does this pertain to me? Okay, well, is this something that I've seen before, right? It sends us into this mode of self-reflection, which is always good, because that's how we grow. I know you've heard people say this before: if you're not growing, then you're dying, right? If a plant's not growing, it's dying. And that's what stagnation is. That's what complacency is. It's a form of spiritual death, in a sense, right? So on your spiritual journey, the shadow work is going to be there through the whole time. It's not going to be as life altering or soul crushing, but it's going to be there. And so one of the things that you're going to be working on, right, is the fears, because fears is what drives our ego, in a sense. Fears is what drive us through the day. It's because starting from a young age, we're told don't do that or else, right? You shouldn't do that or else. So fear is something that has been driven in us as a motivating factor, which, I disagree with. I don't think that. I think it's more like, okay, like when I'm talking to my kids, do you think that that's a wise decision? Well, what are the possible outcomes if that were to happen? You know what I'm saying? Think it through, talk it through. Teach them how to weigh out their options, so that when you're an adult, you're doing the same thing. You're not just driven solely on fear. There's always a healthy amount of fear within the body, but solely on fear and making every decision. And so one of the things that we're fearful of is how we're going to be perceived by others. And we will come into different aspects of ourselves where we'll be like, well, I really don't care what other people think of me. The moment when you come out your broom closet, that's a level of fear that you're releasing. When you're telling people about who you are, what your interests are, that's a form of releasing things of fear, right? But then we start to get to things that we don't necessarily remember to be fear or correlate with fear right away, right? And sometimes, we have a fear of losing people, but then we get this concept like, well, if it's meant for me, it'll be for me. But people only think about it like that too when it comes to romantic relationships. And sometimes this goes for all relationships. You'll have a fear of losing your friend not realizing it, or certain family members and not realizing it. And it'll be like, even if you've had a dispute with whomever, if it's your romantic relationship, your family, or what your friendships, significant others, we will have a fear of losing that, and so we will revert into this space where we are desperately grasping onto things, okay? And we think because we don't do that with everybody else that that's not something that affects us. But lo and behold, it's rearing its ugly head. It's just rearing it with the people who are more close to us. And I think that when that happens, when that level of enlightenment happens, where you realize that, okay, this is happening and it's happening to the people that I feel the most vulnerable around, it's, I don't know, I feel like there's a certain level of strength it takes to recognize it and enact those same feelings that you would with other people. Like, if it's meant to be, it'll be. Because the truth of the matter is, you can't change anybody's opinion of you. And this is my main point, is that it doesn't matter who it is. You cannot alter their opinion of you. On some level, people are always going to look at you in a certain way, especially if they haven't done their own work for their growth, or they're stagnant in their work as it pertains to their growth. You're not going to change their opinion. If there's a misunderstanding and you feel like you've cleared it up, they're still going to feel some type of way about that, especially if you triggered them. If you triggered something within them and they, it's not something that they're ready to work on or even acknowledge needs to be worked on, it doesn't matter what you say. They're going to feel a certain way about you. And this is the general population. This is why people can dislike celebrities that don't even know them, right? People will dislike you who don't even know you. And it's because they've already formed an opinion about you based upon something you did that triggered something within them. So, I mean, it doesn't really have anything to do with you. It's about their growth, right? But, and their journey that they're on. But it just because it doesn't have anything to do with you doesn't mean that it doesn't affect you. And so, it's very important to master this level of, and I say master, I use that word very loosely because I don't believe you can master something in a short span of time. I think mastery is something that takes more than a decade, and that's just touching, that's being confident, right? But to master something, I think, is a very high honor. But we need to strive to master the energy of detachment so that it is not weighing on us so heavily if we have to release things that aren't serving us. And sometimes these things tend to be people. Sometimes you can love people with all your heart, but they are not meant to travel the same road that you're going to be traveling. You're going to be moving in a different direction, and that's okay. But it's like Spirit is trying to make a way for you to get there, and you just have to trust Spirit in this sense. Now, I feel like I need to clarify, there's a difference between cutting people off because, it's like I'll cut somebody off real quick and not think twice about it. That sometimes that energy is dangerous because what you're doing, in a sense, is bottling up certain emotions instead of expressing these emotions, and then it might sneak up on you on the later tail end of things. However, that might not be true. You might just have mastered this energy that I'm speaking of, where it's like, I trust that if we're supposed to be, then we're going to be. And I'm not going to, I've done what I can to secure this relationship, but I'm not going to alter my boundaries or myself. I'm not going to compromise myself to convince you to stay, right? So I just feel like we have to master this, because it can be the people that we just hold very dear to ourselves, dear to our heart. But if if God is trying to put you somewhere, if God is trying to send you somewhere, even boats have a capacity, you know, on the amount of weight. Elevators have a capacity. There is a capacity limit. There's a weight limit when it comes to things that transport you. Planes, there's a limit to the capacity and the weight. Cars, there's a limit to capacity and weight. Roller coasters, there's a limit to capacity and weight. Elevators, boats, all of the above, right? So if Spirit is trying to leave somebody behind, if God is trying to leave somebody behind, you really do have to walk out on faith and trust that where you're going, if that person's gonna make it there, they'll be there on the other side. You know what I'm saying? Like, your paths will cross and connect again, and you don't have to leave things off on a negative stand. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes people have already made up their minds, and they've made up their decisions, and they've come to their own conclusions and decided what they want to do. You can't control that, you know. So I think that's all that I really wanted to say. It's just a thought that I had this morning, something that I wanted to express, because I can see that happening in my own path as well, you know. But in this moment, I feel comfortable in the release. I'm not grasping to hold on to things or people, because I just feel like where I'm going, where I'm trying to be, these attachments are not meant to be in the same place as me. Not at this time. This is something that I'll have to do by myself. And it honestly has taken me a long time to get here, where it's like, okay, Spirit, let's do this, you know. I'm going to do it on my own, and I'm going to be fine if I do it on my own. You know. So hopefully this is something that can help somebody else along on their journey as well. Help somebody else decide, you know, that it's okay to really trust. It's trust, right? I trust that my spirit guides my higher self. I trust that God is going to take me where I'm supposed to be. And those who are meant to be there with me will be there with me. And if they're not, it makes room for anybody else who's going to step up to be there on that journey. So that's it for the moment. You know, if you guys enjoy this video, I probably should have said, they always say when you're watching things on how to grow, tell people like, subscribe, and share in the very beginning. And I'm more like, word vomit. Let me get out what I have to say. But if you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, share the content, leave me a comment. I'd love to know your opinions on this matter, or if you know that you've gone through something similar, or other people have gone through something similar, you know what I'm saying? Let me know. Other than that, you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the beginning of your weekend. It is Friday today, so make it great. All right?